You ever seen what happens when a drunk tourist tries to mess with the royal guard? Stephen thought it'd be a fun stunt to impress his friends until he hit the ground with a rifle aimed at his chest. The crowd froze, phones trembling in their hands. That night, he learned the hard way where the line between a joke and disaster really is. But let's rewind to where it all began. It was one of those late, electric London nights. Tourists flooded the square outside Buckingham Palace like moths to a giant, glowing jewel. Cameras flashed, street vendors hollered, and somewhere in the background, a street performer played an off-key version of Wonderwall. People weren't just here for photos of the palace. Oh no, they wanted the real attraction, the royal guard. Stiff as statues, faces like they just won a staring contest with eternity, tourists loved trying to get a reaction, snapping selfies next to the unbreakable soldiers. But tonight would be different. Enter Stephen, 23, an American on what can only be described as a cultural exploration. Translation: a European booze cruise with his college bros. After sampling more beer, wine, and shots than any reasonable person could handle, Stephen's ego had inflated to a dangerous level. His friends, equally wasted but somehow still in cameraman mode, egged him on like it was some twisted reality show. "Bro, you gotta do it. Come on, nobody else has got the guts," one of them jeered, his phone already recording. Stephen stumbled forward, weaving through the crowd. He had the swagger of someone who believed that beer was a performance-enhancing drug. His eyes locked on his target, a young royal guard, Michael Grant, 27 years old. Michael had been on duty for a few hours, his body still, his gaze locked straight ahead like he was carved from marble. He had seen guys like Stephen before, a lot of them. But something about this guy's reckless aura screamed, "This is going to get messy." Stephen staggered closer, his grin wide and crooked. "Yo, hey dude," Stephen called out, waving a hand dramatically in front of Michael's face. The guard didn't flinch. "Look at this guy, man. He's like a wax figure." Stephen snorted and turned to his friends. The crowd around them began to take notice. People whispered. Phones emerged from pockets, and anticipation crackled through the air. Stephen wasn't done. No, not even close. "Hey, soldier boy, what's up with you? You dead inside or something?" he sneered, stepping even closer. Michael held his ground, his face betraying no emotion, though deep down, he was mentally rolling his eyes. Just another drunken idiot trying to act tough for the cameras. Nothing new. But then Stephen crossed the line. He moved forward until they were practically nose to nose. For a split second, the scene froze like a tableau. Stephen, the cocky drunk American, and Michael, the stoic guard with the patience of a saint. Then Stephen did it. The one thing no sane person would dare. He reached out, his hand aiming for Michael's rifle, like a kid reaching for a shiny toy. "Yo, let me see that for a sec. Just one touch, man." The atmosphere snapped like a rubber band. In an instant, Michael's deep, commanding voice echoed across the square. "Step back." It wasn't a request. It was the kind of order that could make your soul leave your body. The crowd collectively gasped. Stephen froze, his hand hovering midair. For the first time that night, his confidence wavered, but not for long. He gave a nervous chuckle, swaying slightly on his feet. "Chill, man. I was just messing around," Stephen laughed, glancing back at his friends. They were still filming, eyes wide with excitement. One of them muttered, "Dude, this is gonna blow up online." But Stephen was too drunk to read the room. He grinned like he still thought this was funny. Big mistake. The situation was far from over. The whole scene explodes like a firework in slow motion. Michael moves fast. Faster than anyone expects. In a single fluid motion, he pivots on his heel, rifle raised and aimed directly at Stephen. His stance is razor sharp, the kind of discipline that could shut down riots. The crowd collectively gasps, and a few people even shriek. Phones are up, lenses zoomed in. Every bystander is now an amateur news reporter, capturing this moment of pure chaos. Stephen, for all his earlier bravado, instantly panics. His reflexes, dulled by hours of partying, fail him. He stumbles backward, his feet tangling up beneath him like a bad comedy sketch. The ground comes rushing up to meet him, and before he knows it, he's on his back, blinking up at the sky. But this isn't funny anymore, not even a little. His eyes lock onto the barrel of the rifle, pointed in his direction. The cold, disciplined expression on Michael's face sends a chill racing down Stephen's spine. It's like staring into the eyes of someone who's seen real threats, real danger, and Stephen suddenly realizes how badly he's miscalculated. Whoa, man. Hey, relax. I was just joking. Stephen stammers, his voice cracking like a cheap speaker. His hands are up now, shaking like leaves in the wind. Come on, dude, it was a prank. Just a prank, all right? The crowd buzzes with tension. Someone yells from the sidelines, "Oh my God, is he gonna shoot?" Another voice chimes in, "I think this guy's in serious trouble. Someone call security." But Michael doesn't say a word. His face remains a mask of stone, but his eyes, those eyes, glint with something darker, something that's been buried under years of unflinching duty and countless provocations. His mind races through every similar encounter he's had on duty. Tourists screaming in his ear, kids throwing things, drunk stumbling too close, every single time he's had to stay calm. But tonight feels different. Tonight, the tension is unbearable. Stephen gulps, his heart slamming in his chest, like a drum solo gone wrong. He glances around desperately, searching for a lifeline. His friends are still frozen, phones in hand, capturing every humiliating second. He can practically hear the future comments now. "Look at this clown. Bet he thought he was invincible." Another classic case of play stupid games, win stupid prizes. "Yo, man, this is a misunderstanding." One of Stephen's friends finally steps forward, waving his arms like he's trying to calm a wild animal. "He's drunk, all right? He's not a threat. We're sorry, okay?" Michael doesn't even blink. His focus is still locked on Stephen. It's not about the rifle anymore. It's about control. The guard knows he's the center of attention now, and every move he makes is under the world's scrutiny. Somewhere in the back of his mind, he's aware that this footage is already circulating online, but he also knows he has a responsibility. To the crown, to his training, to himself, not to let this situation spiral. And yet, the rage simmers just beneath the surface. "Michael!" A sharp voice cuts through the tension. An officer strides onto the scene, his uniform crisp, his expression tight with concern. He quickly assesses the situation, eyes narrowing as he approaches. "What's going on here?" Michael doesn't respond immediately. His muscles remain coiled like springs, his grip on the rifle firm. The officer steps closer, placing a hand on Michael's shoulder with a subtle but firm pressure. It's a silent command. "Stand down." Slowly, almost reluctantly, Michael lowers the weapon. The crowd exhales in unison, as if they'd all been holding their breath at once. Stephen scrambles to his feet, his legs wobbling like jelly. He's breathing hard, his face pale and drenched in sweat. He knows he came within inches of disaster. His friends rush to his side, their expressions a mix of fear and relief. "Dude, what just happened?" one of them whispers. "You almost got yourself—" "Don't even say it." Stephen cuts him off, still gasping for air. His mind is racing, replaying the past few minutes over and over, like a horror movie stuck on loop. Around them, the crowd begins to disperse, some disappointed that there wasn't more action. Others linger, still glued to their phones, reviewing the footage for the best angles. In the background, someone mutters, "This is definitely going viral." Michael finally steps back, his posture once again rigid and formal. The officer nods to him, a silent acknowledgement that the situation is under control, but as Michael turns to resume his post, he catches Stephen's eye one last time. He leans in just enough for his words to be heard, but not recorded. "You're lucky tonight," Michael says quietly, his voice low and firm. "Next time, think twice." Stephen doesn't respond. He can't. His throat feels like sandpaper. All he can do is nod, the weight of those words pressing down on him like a boulder. The officer waves them off, signaling for Stephen and his friends to leave. They don't need to be told twice. As they stagger away from the scene, Stephen feels the stares of the crowd following him. He knows he's a walking meme now, a cautionary tale for every other tourist with a little too much liquid courage. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a single thought repeats over and over. "What have I done?" Michael finally steps back, his boots scraping lightly on the stone pavement. His heartbeat is steady, his breathing controlled, But inside, he knows he came dangerously close to breaking protocol. He can't afford to risk everything he's worked for, especially not over some drunken tourist who thought tonight was his personal prank show. Stephen, meanwhile, is still sprawled on the ground, his ego shattered into a million tiny pieces. His once cocky expression has been replaced by a dazed, vacant stare. His friends finally snap out of their shock and rush over to help him. "Dude, come on, get up," one of them mutters, glancing nervously at the surrounding crowd. People are still watching, still filming. Some are whispering, others are clearly disappointed that the drama is dying down. The officer gives a sharp wave, silently commanding the bystanders to move along. A few linger, reluctant to give up on their shot at internet fame, but most start to drift away, mumbling things like, "Well, that was intense," and "I thought he was about to get tackled." Michael takes one last step closer to Stephen and leans down, his voice low and dangerous. "You're playing with fire," he whispers, his words crisp and deliberate. "Tonight you got lucky. Next time, you won't." Stephen doesn't speak. He can't. His throat feels tight, and his mind is racing. The words hit him like a cold slap, cutting through the fog of alcohol and adrenaline. He nods slowly, barely aware of his surroundings anymore. For the first time in hours, he's stone cold sober. The officer gestures for Michael to leave the scene, and the guard obeys without hesitation. His posture remains rigid as he's escorted away, but a part of him feels strangely satisfied. He knows this encounter will haunt the tourist for a long time. Stephen's friends haul him to his feet, their fear masked by awkward laughter. "Bro, that was insane," one of them says, shaking his head. "I mean, you're not dead, so that's cool, right?" "Shut up," Stephen mutters under his breath. He's still trembling, his thoughts a jumbled mess of fear, embarrassment, and regret. The group stumbles away from the scene, ignoring the stares and murmurs of the crowd. Every step feels heavier than the last, like he's dragging the weight of his own stupidity behind him. The next morning, Stephen sits hunched over his phone in the hotel lobby. The light from the screen burns his tired eyes, but he can't look away. The video is everywhere. His face, pale, terrified, and sprawled out on the ground, is plastered across dozens of social media feeds. The comments are brutal. Americans, always making fools of themselves. "You were warned. Don't mess with the Royal Guard. This dude's gonna have nightmares for life." Stephen groans and sets the phone down, burying his face in his hands. This isn't just secondhand embarrassment anymore. It's a full-on existential crisis. He came to Europe expecting adventure and stories to brag about. Instead, he's become an international meme. A friend plops down next to him and nudges his shoulder. "Hey man, look, it's not that bad. People will forget in like, a week, maybe." Stephen gives him a deadpan glare. "Yeah, sure, because viral content disappears so quickly," he replies, his voice dripping with sarcasm. He knows this video will be making rounds for months, maybe even years. Across the city, Michael finally arrives home. His uniform is neatly hung up in his closet, and he sinks into the couch, exhausted but relieved to be off duty. He flicks on the TV, expecting to catch some boring news segment, but his own face greets him on the screen. The headline reads, "Royal Guard Standoff with Tourist Sparks Viral Frenzy." Michael sighs deeply and rubs his temples. He knew this was coming. Social media never sleeps. The clip plays again, showing him standing tall, rifle in hand, as Stephen stumbles and falls. Commentators discuss the iconic moment, praising his discipline and composure. Some call him a hero. Others debate whether he was too harsh. Either way, it's clear that this incident has cemented itself in public memory. Michael turns off the TV and leans back, letting out a slow breath. He didn't ask for this attention, but he knows it comes with the job. He closes his eyes, the events of the night replaying in his mind like a film reel. One thing is certain. Both he and Stephen will remember this moment for the rest of their lives. How would you have handled this situation? Do you think Michael was too strict, or did Stephen get what he deserved? Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you or your friends ever been in a similar situation? Don't forget to like the video and join the discussion. This story was created with a purpose: to highlight the importance of respect and responsibility in public spaces. Through storytelling, we aim to raise awareness and make the world a better, kinder place.